Hey guys, welcome back to Star Wars Timeline. Today I'm honored to have a very special guest. I have the writer, director, as well as the leading star of the popular Star Wars fan film Dark Legacy that was released in 2017 on YouTube and has over 1 million viewers. Guys, thank you so much for making it. Please introduce yourselves. Tell us a little bit about what are the latest projects you're working on.
Go ahead. There you go, Mark.
Hi, I'm Erin. I have something coming out July 28th, family business. And then the trailer for The Idol just released this weekend, but I don't know when that's coming out, it says soon. And then a feature film with Bill Burr, Miramax, and it's called Old Dads.
Huge fan over here of Bill Burr.
Bill Burr, yeah?
Oh yeah, me and my brother as well.
Oh, amazing. Awesome.
And how about you, Anthony?
Me, honestly, I've just been kind of in development lately. I recently finished a script about astral projection, and as you saw kind of in the Star Wars fan film, there's a lot of space in the mind and kind of like going internal. I've always been into that sort of stuff. And then I'm also pitching a TV show about something called past life regression via hypnosis. So also kind of in the same space. So, always have things going on, but very much in the development phase right now.
Yeah, things are a bit slow in the Star Wars community right now. It's summertime. There's not a lot of shows coming out. And I said, you know what, let me get back into looking at Star Wars fan films, because I was under the impression I've seen all the biggest ones out there without appreciating the fact that the industry and the subgenre of fan filmmaking is becoming bigger and bigger each year. And obviously Star Wars community has one of the biggest supporting communities where they actually want you to make those films. Erin, my question was actually for you. I wanted to sort of start in a general, conversation and kind of build our way into the film. As you mentioned, you have quite a few projects coming out. You're in the TV show Family Business. You have the Game of Power movie, which is, I believe, in pre-production, right? It's coming out this year?
I would assume next year.
Next year. All right. Well, guys, we'll drop all the links so all of you could check it out. Erin, I'm sure you're going to do a wonderful job on this. I wanted to ask you, did the short film experience working on this movie help build a little bit of confidence and acting in front of a screen?
Definitely. I mean, I would say the arc of the character too is just, it's all about like empowering yourself and building yourself up and overcoming. So I think that definitely, I could use for my reel, was perfect. It was, I loved working on it. It definitely helped me.
Would you say there are any specific tricks or techniques or maybe kind of disciplines that you learned on the set of The Dark Legacy that you still take with you and you practice it today in your current work?
I'm always playing with the lightsaber.
Just in case, right?
You never know.
You never know. Yeah, no, definitely the fight choreography is definitely something that I'm continuously doing for every project. And just being a lot of auditions, I'm playing a female warrior who's kicking ass. Can we swear here? I'm sorry.
Oh, it's fine. Don't worry about this, guys. So would you say, Erin, that it's part of a young actor's resume? You got to be also physically able, just in case that call from Disney or what gives any kind of action-oriented TV show, you want to be physically as capable as your acting talent as well, right?
Definitely, you want to be doing it every day, kicking.
Because we see all the time bigger stars jumping, from their more creative roles where invested emotionally in kind of dramatic pieces, and they jump into the Marvelverse and this comic book industry. These are gigs that they also want to do to get exposure, to get more popularity. Anthony, where did the idea for this film come up? What was your earliest inspiration for the film?
Yeah, I wanted to do something that was kind of subversive in the Star Wars genre. I feel like Star Wars is it's an intellectual property that has been around for a long time, right? So whenever a lot of people, at a certain age, my parents saw Star Wars whenever they were younger. And so I think what people don't acknowledge or realize often, at least in terms of the big studios, is that this material has matured. The people who like it have matured, and their tastes have matured with them. And so what I wanted to do was something that was a little bit more adult in nature. And second, I wanted to play with the mythology of Star Wars in a way that I hadn't seen played with. And I feel like the most interesting thing about Star Wars is not the Skywalker lineage. I feel like the best thing that Disney could do is get as far away from, you know, anything related to Skywalker as they can, and start exploring the mythology around it. You know, there's Star Wars has this spiritual quality to it, and I feel like that's the most interesting thing. And like, you look at things like a kyber crystal, like what is a kyber crystal, and they have these different quotes and things like that. That I was like, okay, well, let's play around with that. And then the other idea that I really wanted to play with was, you know, being a martial artist myself, you know, fight choreography. I wanted, and the idea that a lightsaber is a weapon, but it's also a producer of light. And so if you're using it in a space dark, it's actually a tactical disadvantage to use it. So I really wanted to, you know, mix all those things, the mythology, the maturity, and to do a fresh take on lightsaber fight choreography that I thought was going to be, you know, fresh and interesting and kind of match my taste. So those were all kind of like the original inspirations, and the story kind of grew from there, you know, really looking into like what Sith training might look like, and then playing with the timeline and really going way back, like Old Republic, you know, era, and just trying to see, you know, how much we could dive into there. Those are all kind of like the origin points.
Yeah, I definitely see the esoteric kind of beginnings core to your films. Oni is one of them. I saw two of your films. We'll talk just a bit about that if you don't mind later on. But yeah, I totally agree with you. As somebody who's been reading Star Wars, first of all, you know, I'm 40, I'm from Russia, came here when I was 14, and Star Wars has been with me all my life, you know, and you're absolutely right in saying that we have matured as audience, and where, of course, Star Wars has to appeal to family-oriented audience, kids as well, but there's quite a demographic there who wants a more mature kind of thing. And for me, who has been reading these expanded universe novels for like 20 years, I absolutely agree with you. Star Wars thrives when it goes beyond the Skywalker bloodline and starts exploring these core elements, the spirituality component of it, the light versus dark, the balance of the two, all of these ideas. And you transmit them in this film like crazy. When I saw it, all these elements just see it. Sometimes fans argue, well, you're just reaching, you're looking at the film and you're just picking out the details and you're assigning meaning to it. But that's the craft of it. That's the beauty, that I, as a fan, was able to look at your film and see something that went so much beyond your base level, like surface level action entertainment, with just like a cool duel, which let's be honest, oftentimes that's what a lot of fan films are. It's just exposition of cool things on screen, which is fine. But I always was gravitating towards more story-oriented stuff. And the first thing, guys, I wanted to discuss is the production of this film. I have a couple of questions for both of you. Hopefully, we might go through them. Erin, did you have any reservations or concerns? What were you the most excited to do with this film?
Ooh, I was really nervous actually about because of like the Kia was, you know, she was going through this abuse, and like being in that emotional space was, you know, that's difficult. And the story is just what like I fell in love with, and I was really excited to portray that even without dialogue. Like it's like all about the emotions, and it's difficult.
Yeah, I can imagine, because you are the star, right? We have your antagonist who is masked, and who there's an argument to be made, he's not much of a character. He's this shadowy figure against which the main character plays against, and it's her story we as audience are invested in. And I mean, all the cameras, all the lights are on you. You got to deliver, right? The movie makes it or breaks it depending on what your performance is. And I personally enjoyed it a lot. You know, I always like a single person kind of like feature where you look at the person and, you know, by the time the credits roll, you're full of questions. Like, hey, hold on a second. Don't roll the credits yet. What's next? What is this character going through? Where is she going to end up in part 2? Which is also a question I'm going to have later on, Anthony. Now the question to our writer and director, you know, what qualities were you looking for in your lead star?
Well, it's been interesting. I mean, if you look at a lot of my work, there's always a character that doesn't speak. Because I find that, and it's just probably draws back to childhood inspiration from video games. You know, the silent protagonists. You know, if you look at like Link as an example, but there's so many other examples of a character through which they are the eyes through which you enjoy the story. And I found that like when you have a dialogueless person, it allows the audience to really relate and ascribe their own experience to that character. And I felt like Erin did an amazing job at like going through that emotional experience. And, you know, you really are kind of like going through it with her, and you feel it with her. And, you know, what I was looking for was just somebody who could do that. And then also somebody who was a phenomenal martial artist. And she was both of those things. And those things were like very apparent immediately. She also ended up introducing Phil Tan, who introduced the person, Fabien Garcia, who played the master. At least the person that was under the mask that was doing the physical performance. And then, you know, a friend of mine, Dave Thomas, did the voiceover work, and also was, whenever the mask was revealed, played that character physically on screen. But, you know, just, I really wanted somebody who could emote and carry somebody through that from an emotional standpoint, but also have the physical wherewithal to deliver that performance from a martial arts standpoint. Because like one thing that I cannot stand and cannot abide in martial arts films is somebody who's not authentically able to do the work. And
early James Bond films.
Yeah, I know. I don't want to
right?
like other movies like Kill Bill or anything.
Yeah.
Other movies where people just don't know what they're doing. And
Sir, we speak the same language. I grew up with Shaw Brothers, martial art films with Asian cinema. They're hugely popular imports into Russia, and that's what I grew up with. And you can immediately tell, you know, if Keanu Reeves can sell it as a martial artist, right? Because he's a decent enough actor, he has a stage presence, and he was young and able. He trained for it very hard. Others, not as much. But, you know, also a part of Star Wars fandom is obviously it's a family saga. It's a story of family. You have very strong female archetypes like Leia. But also you do want to have sex appeal in your film. And obviously we have Erin, who's a beautiful actress, beautiful woman. Was it always your intention to have a female protagonist, like to draw a particular audience, or it wasn't necessarily a female or male hero?
I absolutely wanted it to be female, because I feel like in the context of a sword fight is one of the only ones where I feel like, coming from a martial arts background myself, you can fight with strength or you can fight with skill. And in the context of a sword fight, or a fight with lightsabers for that matter, I think it's one of the ones in which, you know, strength is really not a factor.
Right.
And then also I really wanted to make sure that we had, you know, somebody who was not just like your standard white male action figure, you know what I mean? Like having somebody who was of, you know, a certain ethnicity and was, you know, had the perceptible lineage of somebody who could actually be like a traditional martial artist. Those are both two things that were important to me.
Yeah, I clearly see it. Definitely. Like now that you're spelling it out, I'm like, yeah, okay, I see the reasoning behind it. Erin, how difficult was it? Like how physically demanding was it? And did you look at any references for kind of like style that you want to pursue, whether it was in Star Wars movies or television shows or any other exterior sources that you prepared for?
Oof. Can I get back to you on that?
Sure, no, absolutely. Because, you know, when I looked at your performance in it, and I want to be honest, you know, it's not to discredit or criticize too much of other filmmakers, because you have to understand that fan filmmaking is such an arduous task. Sometimes you're not a professional filmmaker, you're just a fan who is very passionate, who wants to throw something on the screen and hope it works. You know, and a lot of choreography, unfortunately, doesn't work. When I see you and the gentleman, the person who plays the Sith, both of you look like expert martial artists. Both of you look like you've been doing it for a lifetime. We look at the character of Kia, and I did have another question coming up to you, though, if you want to kind of hold off a little bit on the importance of, you know, how you were preparing for it. How much of that character, Kia, is physical ability on behalf of the actress yourself, and how much of it was acting? They're trying to show up for it and say like, well, I'm going to use my acting techniques to show that also that she's very skilled.
So we both actually have a background in Wushu, and Fabien and Lohan, they both choreographed the the fight choreography.
Mhm.
And I've actually never used the lightsaber up until on set, and that was heavy, and I was not used to it.
Really?
Yeah, Wushu sword's a little lighter, but the lightsaber, like I had to use two hands. It
Mhm.
was rough, and no, I don't think there was any acting involved. It was tough. Actually, there was the first shot. I actually
She got hit.
I got knocked out.
Yeah, almost got knocked out. Like there was a spin move.
Oh my God.
The mask that Fabien was wearing, it was like almost impossible to see. And
Yeah.
that was actually a major problem that we faced in the production of it. The fabrication of the mask, trying to find something that looked good and resembled, like, because there was the hero mask that we used for the close-ups, and then there was the stunt mask, and the stunt mask had these little slits, and they're doing very complicated moves, and they did a spin move, and Erin got hit in the temple, and we were like, "Oh man!" Like,
It was at midnight.
we were all. It was like 2 a.m. by the time we got like the lights up. We had very little time to get this choreography in, and we were all kind of tired. But she took the hit.
Real dirt on my face.
Just like the character, like got
God.
back up again, and then just pushed herself through it and finished the night like a champ. She totally rose to the occasion. We were all very impressed and very like nervous that it was going to happen again.
Guys, so those of you who are watching, now you can imagine, right? Like, I could do better than Disney. I could sit down, get myself like a $4,000 camera, and I could shoot a fan film. It's not an easy thing to do. I think the brilliance of it comes off when you look at a film, 5-minute film, 10-minute film, and it looks easy. That's the brilliance of it, because everything feels and looks so effortless. I'll be honest with you guys. I'm not kissing up to you. I don't get anything out of it, right? Nobody's paying me. Yours is one of the better films out there, because I felt that all of the components really clicked together. And this is my next question to you, Anthony, please. What is the importance of balancing your story and action? Because when I compare the Oni film, your latest fan film, to this one, in Oni, I would argue personally that it's a more action-centric movie. Every piece of the story and dialogue that is written there, it is all in the service of that action scene. Whereas Dark Legacy felt like all of the action that is happening there, and the locale, the setting, everything that the characters they have exchanged, everything was done in the service of the story. There's so much lore building, it's so much stuff happening outside of the confines of the screen. And once again, after the credits roll, that I'm left with nothing but like, hey, I hope we get a sequel. Like, what gives, man? I want more of this. How do you balance the act of giving enough action and enough story for the audience to get really excited?
As I could progress into, other films and things, the reality is the action is not as important, and it's really not as important in an indie film, because the audience is not going to be able to give you like credit. They're not going to be like, oh, well, that action was good enough. Like, they're always going to compare you to like the John Wicks and like the blockbuster movies of the world. And so really, the less emphasis you have on the action and the more emphasis you have on the story, when you're in the realm of story, that's when it's the great equalizer. Like, as if you're with dialogue and emotional performance and character development, you are able to present in a way that's parallel to any other story, right? But when it comes to action, if you don't have the budget, you can't really compete. So I think that like the best thing that you can do is to have the emphasis be on the story. And on the Oni film, fun fact about that Oni film is that it was actually sponsored by the sword maker. The swords that were featured in that film were from an app / sword manufacturer called Samurai Sword Store. It was a sponsored piece. So in that case, in that context, it made sense for all of it, the focus to be on like the weaponry and on the weapon work.
Right.
So, and that was, we did we generated a lot of traffic to that app, on those Instagram pages in that way. But with Star Wars, that was more of like a labor of love. It was my baby. It was me kind of like presenting myself in a certain way. So I was able to have a little bit more fun with the story on that one.
Now that you put it in perspective, I definitely see it. I think it's totally fine. Even commercial making it is an art form of itself.
Totally.
And if that particular Oni film gets to sell swords, but it's done creatively with artistry, like with beauty in it. I mean, it took me 2.5 seconds to look at that Oni character design and the freaking masks, and I'm like, oh, it's just gonna be a stationary masks. And then the person smiles. I'm like, Jesus Christ, I want this person to like direct the Onimusha video game movie adaptations or something from Capcom. Like, please, can somebody contact him? Let's make this happen, Guys, before we move on from the production, just a brief question to both of you. What was what did this film represent to both of you? What did you want to specifically portray with this character, Kia?
The hero's journey, I think, for me, there's a development, is that you have to reach into yourself and have confidence, and then and when you overcome the inner turmoil is when you can have control over your external world. That was really the symbolic arc of the character for me.
Mm-hmm. How about you, Erin?
I think I just related to Kia like on a personal level, and going through, everyone's going through some hard things, and
right.
Yeah, and just overcoming that. And
definitely, I also related to the whole story of the lost brother. I'm not gonna go too much into it, but there's a family history that I have that has to do with that kind of like loss in the family, and just seeing that, I was like, oh, I feel it. I relate. Again, when you're able to touch somebody's heart, you have like a short film, but you're so precise with your vision, like exactly what you want to do. I think people read it, and people don't have to reach into it and excavate like this is the meaning. The Star Wars fans are known for doing that. Like they find symbology in everything, where sometimes even George Lucas like, yeah, I was exactly thinking of that, when in reality it's happy incidents coming together into a film, and that's where symbology comes from. But here I felt it was very targeted. Guys, I wanted to move on quickly to the visual effects and the artistic direction of the film. I know we're a bit constrained on time, but I'm trying to extract as much of useful and cool information from you as possible. And once again, thank you so much for being here. It's a lot of pleasure speaking to both of you. I imagine you both are proud of your creation. It's over 1 million views on YouTube, to 1 million more, hopefully, in the future. I would say that Dark Legacy has very impressive special effects when it comes to CGI and props and character design. But more importantly, it has an absolutely brilliant art direction. I was stunned. I'm like, this is better than most of the stuff I see on Disney+. Just fantastic, simple imagery that reads and then just sparks your imagination, and you just question mark everywhere. And I think that's the beauty of storytelling. Anthony, just very briefly, you could talk about the planet. I mean the planet itself, the location. We see these ancient Sith statues. They remind me of these Zaffo people that we see in Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order video game. You might be familiar with it. I imagine you are. The kyber crystal pods in which these kyber crystals grow. I don't think I've seen anything like this before. Or even the Sith character himself. We just now have a book that came out, The Shadow of the Sith, with the main antagonist rocking a mask. Yours is doing that in 2017. Just the visual language of the film. How did it what are some of the things in it that...
I'd like to believe that Disney Plus is taking some notes. It's just,
yes.
who knows what's really happening there. So yeah, the art direction, so there's an artist friend of mine, Jeremy Aiello Ortner. He is a sculptor, a phenomenal sculptor. He worked on The Walking Dead for years, and he has this very kind of like unique style. And I saw those sculptures in his house actually, and I was like, this is great. Can I please borrow these? And so what I did is I took a 3D scan of, I was able to do something called photogrammetric scanning, and we scanned the statues, and we replicated a 3D asset, which we put into the film. And so for me, the visual effects in this were like they took me a year to do all the special effects in this, and I had to learn a bunch. And I also had the benefit of working with a longtime colleague from a company called Kisney Visuals, who did some of the 3D work, the water simulations and such. And the other special effects, the director of photography, Alex Chinisi, a phenomenally talented cinematographer. We early on, we recognized the emphasis of needing a practical light source in the shots that would emit light, that we could then use as the basis for the lightsaber effects, so that it wasn't only just something that looked like it was creating light, it actually was creating light. And so that made the special effects, read and register as that much more practical. So like, the location, I again, to go back to that mythos, that mythology, it's oftentimes it's not what you say. My creative writing teacher told me this back when I was in high school. What you don't tell them, they can never forget. And so if you look at those statues and you look at those kyber crystals, those pods, and we took some like artistic license with the mythology of the kyber crystal, but there was that quote, "The strongest hearts are made of kyber," and it was in Rogue One.
Right.
The idea that would actually be based on the essence of somebody, like their force essence, and more specifically, the force essence of a character's brother. There's a personal connection there, that you would be fighting with the essence of your sibling, that you're trying to like avenge their death. Like that just felt like such a cool and personal way to personify the weapon that you're using. So, these are all the kind of themes and tropes that I really wanted to play with, and to then use those as the basis for the special effects. That was always kind of like the goal. So really, like you said earlier, it goes back to that emphasis on story and less the emphasis on action, but it still weaves into the action, but it's the story first, right? Yeah. So I hope that answers the question.
Definitely does. Yeah, it's I just recently reviewed the Shadow of the Sith book. No spoilers, guys, but I felt that where the book was lacking in action sequences, which I was honestly unimpressed by most of them, I still rated it very highly, because for me the story came through. And everything that was there was so emotional, and it was so easy to follow Lando, Calrissian, and Luke Skywalker, that the rest of it was kind of very easily forgivable for me. Erin, I also really enjoyed the fact that Kia is literally chained to the ground on this planet. I felt it was very strong and powerful visual there. Obviously, it's representing her inner turmoil, and you completely sold that performance with the acting. Like, I felt that she's suffering through it. She's stuck on this planet. She's miserable, and there's a lot of spiritual. She's like a cocoon that is waiting to like just emerge and spread her wings and fly. And obviously, we see that by the end of the film. There's a great transformation through the picture, where she begins chained down to this planet to where she becomes inner, liberation. How did you, what kind of emotional space you had to get into to relate to her being literally chained down to a planet? Because once again, your acting really, really comes through there.
It's private. No, I'm kidding. I do want to thank my acting coach, Johnny D'Souza from Spies of Sturges. We did work on it. And yeah, it was an emotional memory that I had to do, and he directed me, and it got me there. We had to do it a few times, I think. And really, I actually meditated and to get to that spot. So.
Because you do actually meditate in the film as well, right? There's a lot of these shots where, your eyes are closed, you're centered, and then even when the lightsaber blade ignites, it's kind of like central. There's this symmetry, very like Asian, motifs there of Buddhism and even like Shintoism, where everything is symmetrical, everything is centered, that this is how the universe works, and you have to have equal and balanced sides of the left and the right, and so yin and yang and so forth. That also I really enjoyed, when she's like sitting there and she's meditating, and you just can't wait to see where it goes. Once again, my compliments. I really, really enjoyed the acting there. The next chunk of our conversation, if I could just steal 10 more minutes of your lives, guys, I wanted to talk a little bit about the action. I know we discussed it briefly previously, but there is a specific question that I wanted to ask. Anthony, once again, I felt that the duel was brilliantly filmed. I watched the recent Kenobi show, and it just, a lot of things felt very lacking for me, uncreative, and just there wasn't enough sense of impact there. But I felt that you accomplished a great balance between flashy, extravagant movements, but also practicality of fencing. So what was the biggest challenge of achieving that balance in choreography?
Well, I don't want to take too much credit for the choreography because it wasn't really, I had beats, that I wanted to emphasize, and I wanted it to be practical when possible. And each thing, it was a story-driven fight scene, so there was an emotional arc to it. But Fabien and Lohan, who really put together the choreography, and Phil Tan, who kind of facilitated that whole thing. Lohan is one of the fight choreographers on The Witcher right now. He's a phenomenal athlete, and Fabien also is just like, he himself is like a physical genius. So like, I can't really take too much credit for any of that. They worked on that. They even like pre-scripted some of the camera moves and stuff, and it was a collaborative effort with Alex and I. I was also shooting. I was on B-cam on some of the shots. So it was really a big team effort, and I really want to give credit where credit's due to Erin and Fabien and Lohan for being integral in that process.
Yeah, so it feels like definitely a one unique vision there. That didn't feel like there's too many cooks in the kitchen, because I imagine there had to be some great communication and bond and camaraderie between you guys. Just saying, no, this is exactly the direction we're going. Let's not deviate from that. This is the path. This is stylistic choice. This is how we're going to do it. But Anthony, what you can absolutely take credit for is that you decided to shoot it in the dark. And I know it wasn't easy, because Shaw Brothers' 70s martial art Asian films are credited to filming some of the most clear, visually appealing action sequences, right? Shaolin versus Lama, Annie Gordon-Liu film, The Prodigal Son. When you look at those films, they stay with those actors for 60 seconds, for a minute and a half, without cuts. With all these performers, these actors and martial artists are performing all the actions, and it's very clear to read. In your film, you compound that issue by shooting in the dark, and it still works really well. Like, how challenging was that?
Well, you have to understand, like, where we shot this was on an island. Like, we had to rent this like tugboat and then get out onto this island and have this. It was very difficult. And then like the boat died over the course of the shoot. The bathroom stopped working. Like, we shot until the sun came up. I mean, it was like, it was a very difficult. We were on our way out to this location. The sun was setting as we were getting there. We had to set up these lights and stuff. So like, we lost half the night just getting set up. And then I think we only had maybe like 4 hours or something like that to actually shoot 5 hours. And then there was so much emphasis on story. And so by the time we were actually doing the fight choreography, I mean, we were running on fumes. But we got it, and it's storyboarding is really the trick, to make sure that you're getting all those different shots, those beats that you need. But yeah, it was extremely difficult, and the terrain was extremely difficult, and everybody's fatigue was difficult. And we didn't really have a big crew, but we all loved each other. And what was really hilarious was the next day we went to a bar at like 10 in the morning, and we all just went and had a rap party and started.
Nice. What I really thought worked very well visually was I have background in animation, traditional animation, so we also studied film, and screenplay and all of that stuff, and storyboarding. The use of negative space, and every time they exchanging blows between the lightsabers, the backgrounds around them is not entirely dark, even though it's shot at night. They're illuminated enough to read the actor profiles to understand what is happening there in space. And even that beautiful moment, Erin, when you cross blades with your antagonist and you stay there for a moment and the camera starts moving around. Spatially, I, as a viewer, is very aware of what is happening in that scene. Emotionally, what is reading on the character's face, what she's doing, what the villain is trying to do, how he's trying to oppress her with his presence, with his lightsaber, and the environment around them. You mentioned, obviously, that you have background in wushu. We discussed that you've done martial arts before. But this is the question that I had for you. Now that you've done this role in the Star Wars film, and you look at actors like, let's say, Lawrence Fishburne in the Matrix movies, right? He plays Morpheus. I'm pretty positive you saw that movie. How much do you think it's on actor to fulfill the role in terms of like performance, not martial arts skills, not bodily, like physicality of it, not your muscles, but with acting? Because when we see Lawrence Fishburne just stand in that pose, in that dojo, I was sold immediately. He's such a tremendous actor first, and then martial artist. I was like, wow, this dude is a master. I totally believe he could kick Neo's ass anytime. Like, how much do you like? You have this experience of shooting a movie like this. How much do you think was acting involved there?
You have to be 100% in the world completely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Like there, it's not even like I struggle with the words. It's just you are the character. You're in that world. You can't just be like 50% acting and 50% fighting. You just are you are the character. You are owning that space.
So you have to embody all elements.
Yeah, definitely.
Guys, thank you so much for coming along. I know we're wrapping up on time. I have just one more question for you, if you don't mind, and we'll say our goodbyes. I'll introduce all of your links. We'll try to put the information so everybody gets to check out your film and all of your stuff on IMDb and so forth. But once again, it was an absolute pleasure to speak to you both. Thank you for an amazing film. Anthony, you just knocked that out of the park. For a fan like myself who's been following this my entire life, I was blown away. So the last question I have, and it's for both of you, and whoever wants to take it first, please. What is one thing specifically about this film that you guys are the most proud of?
The relationships that I was able to generate from it. I got a new friend out of Erin and Fabien, people I still stay in touch with. I mean, ultimately, it was a celebration of love between filmmakers and passionate people. And to the way that the film has been received by the fans to this day, the comments that I get are so encouraging and enthusiastic and grateful. So, you know, that was really, it was a labor of love, and that's why we did it. So to be able to share that with everybody, that's everything.
Mm-hmm. How about you, Erin?
So yeah, it was this is like a passion. Like we worked our asses off, blood, sweat, and tears. But we all like our energy was like we all loved doing this.
Yeah.
And like watching it come out, I was like, oh my God. and then afterwards, like we still work on projects together. I've shot with Anthony, I've shot with Fabien. And so, yeah, it's a lifelong friendship. So
that's awesome, guys. Well, as a fan, I'm going to cross my fingers and hope part 2 is either in the making and pre-production stages. People are getting excited because I understand, you know, it's, as a creative person myself, it takes all the time and effort in the world for stars to align and people come together and start doing it. Once again, guys, thank you so much for joining me today. Everyone who's been watching this interview, please go check out this film. I'll drop all the links in the comment section below so you could check it out. I'll drop all the links to Erin and Anthony so you could go and see their creative work. I'm very excited to what you guys do in the future. And thanks a lot. And we'll catch you, everyone, next time. Thank you.
Thank you.